And now we begin with Liberia, where Liberians voted in large numbers in the first election run entirely by the country's institutions and security forces. And in that election yesterday, which ended yesterday, the polls have closed in that elections now. The two elections in which Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Africa's first elected female leader, was voted president in the past, were managed in large part by the UN. This time, election officials who had been preparing for months took their places at polling stations and attended to complaints from voters. Observers reported long lines at many polling stations, even at closing time. With 20 people running for the West African nation's highest office, analysts do not believe anyone will win outright with just over 50% of the votes. There are also nearly 1,000 candidates from 26 parties fighting for around 73 seats in the House of Representatives.
After having casting her vote, outgoing President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf said Liberia was ready for a transition. The European Union, the African Union, the ECOWAS, and the United States have deployed many electoral observers. The chairman of the Electoral Commission, Jerome Kokaya, termed Tuesday's voter turnout as very high without giving figures. Now, in 2011, during the first round of the presidential election, voter turnout reached 71.6%.
We now go over the phone to join our colleague who is in Monrovia for us for this election, Ni Akrofi Smart Abe. Good morning, Ni.
Good morning, Jerry.
Yes, Ni, give us your assessment of the voting that you saw on Tuesday, which is, yesterday, of course.
Okay. Apart from the delays that were experienced at some polling stations, I would say Tuesday's polls were largely successful. There was a large voter turnout, but it appears most of the voters didn't seem to have a firm grasp of the entire voting process. So what happened was you had some voters showing up at the polling stations where they registered, or then they had to be redirected to another voting center, because a number of schools served as voting centers for and the classrooms, the various classrooms in the schools became individual polling stations within the larger premises. So I must say it caused schools to move slowly and really got some voters agitated.
Okay, so far, has there been any news of any major irregularity, or in fact maybe minor? And if there are, what has the Electoral Commission said?
Well, Jerry, there have been no reported irregularities yet. And, well, I also didn't witness any on my rounds with my two yesterday, that's Tuesday. The only issues that have come up so far, and which were discussed when the Electoral Commission met the press and observers yesterday, were those of voters not finding their names on the voters register and voting not starting on time in some areas, and for which the EC assured that in areas where the votes were delayed, voters who were in the queue by 6 p.m. would be allowed to vote. Jerry.
Well, Ni, very good that indeed the elections have gone peacefully and without any incident, as you have just said. But when do we now expect the final results to start trickling in?
Well, from my interaction with Mr. Flomo, who is the NEC's communications director, we can expect some provisional results from today because, the counting process started last night. I was at the center, for instance, where they started counting the ballots at about a few minutes to 9 p.m. That center, for instance, was expecting 560 voters, but those who turned out to vote were a little shy of 500. So let's keep our fingers crossed. We're expecting another briefing from the EC later today, and I'm hoping we'll be able to get some results from them by that time.
Yes, indeed. We'll keep our fingers crossed and trust you to bring us the very latest as it breaks. Many thanks, Ni.
Welcome, Jerry.
All right. Africanews journalist Ni Akrofi Smart Abe speaking with us there from Monrovia, Liberia. You're watching The Morning Call right here on Africanews. We now leave Liberia now to bring you the latest stories making the rounds from across Africa.